This year for Christmas, I wanted to crochet some bauble garlands, and I tested out a few different yarns. You can see they're all in cream, which of course you can do it in whatever color you want, but I wanted to use cream. A lot of my decor is in green and white or blue and white or green, blue and white, so this works for me. I also like the way the cream sort of pops off of the dark green of a Christmas tree. So let me go over the yarn options and which ones were my favorite, kind of show you the results so you can decide which one you might want to try. So this first one here, this is with Yarn Bee Cotton XXL. I love this cotton yarn. It's chunky, it has a great natural feel to it since it's cotton. You can see the color is a little bit more of kind of a creamy beige, whereas like this one's a bit more creamy yellow. And because the yarn has this sort of spiral to it, it does end up being very textured. But I thought this one was really fun. I liked it. I'm ending up using this yarn instead, which I'll get to that. But I did want to show what this looked like because I thought this was really successful. The second one, this is just a worsted weight wool that I had on hand, and I thought I'd give it a try. I think that you definitely could do this, especially if you want like a thin, a thinner bauble garland, but it was not my favorite. I didn't end up making very much of it. I think that this is more successful with a yarn that has a little bit more like fuzziness to it, and this just didn't work out as well for me. But I wanted to show you in case you have this kind of yarn on hand and wanted to use it. It's just, I think, a Fisherman's wool yarn. I didn't have a brand on it, so I wasn't sure. These are the ones I ended up using in my decorating, and this is Wool Ease by Lion Brand, just the Wool Ease regular. This is the Wool Ease Thick and Quick. So both the same brand. This one is the thick yarn, this one is regular. I think this is just a worsted weight yarn, but this is an acrylic wool blend. Both of these are. And I think that this one reads a little bit more yellow than this one, but they work well together, like especially on a tree and stuff. I don't mind it. And I like having two different sizes of the bauble garland to choose from. And I did do them just slightly differently, so I will show kind of the differences in how I made them. But this is the just regular Wool Ease, and then this is the Wool Ease Thick and Quick. So let me show you how to make them. So let's start with the Wool Ease yarn. I'm using a 5mm hook, crochet hook, which is a little bit smaller than I think what is suggested for this yarn, but I found that I tested with a few different size hooks and I just liked this one the best. This is not a typical crochet pattern in that like your gauge and what hook you use matters a lot. It just really doesn't. It's all about what look you like. So if you have a 6 hook instead of a 5, like I think that'll probably be okay. I think just play around with it. So we're just gonna make a simple slip knot at the end. You can use your hook to do it, or you can just tie it. So you make a little loop, pull a loop through. We're not gonna pull the whole end through because we want to keep this slip knot, and then you put it on your hook. Like that, okay? And then we're going to do a chain, which is wrapping a loop around the hook and pulling it through. So I'll start with just 2 chains. And you want this end to be long enough so you can tie it together here and just make a little loop for hanging. So we're gonna make our first bauble. And to do that, we're going to, let's see, I'll do 1 more chain. And again, the number of chains at the beginning doesn't matter too much. So in this chain, I'm going to pull the yarn out about 1 inch, and then I'm going to wrap the working yarn around the top, and go through this first hole and pull some more yarn out. So now I've got 3 loops on there. I'm gonna wrap it again, go through that same hole, pull another length through, and now I've got 4 loops. I'm gonna repeat that 9 till I have 9 loops. Wrap, go in the hole, pull more yarn out. Oh, I have 11. All right, there's 9. Okay, there's 9. And then I'm going to wrap it again, and I'm going to pull this yarn through all of those loops, and then grab this yarn and pull it through. And that makes a little bobble. And then I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And then do 1 more chain and start to make another bobble. So pull through about 1 inch, wrap it in the hole, pull it through, wrap it in the hole, pull it through, wrap it. And you really, so I get to the point with these, I don't count. I just sort of do it until I'm happy with the amount of yarn I have on there, and then pull that through and chain it off. And by having more chains, like the more chains you have, the further apart the bobbles are gonna be. So if you want your bobbles to be really close together, you could just do 1 chain. So I can show you what that looks like chain, just do 1 chain, and now we'll do a bobble. So things you want to look for, like if you're a little rusty at working with a crochet hook, or you are new with it, is you want to keep, especially what you're doing with the bobble, making the bobbles, when you're wrapping the yarn, you want to make sure you do it very loosely. If you make it tight, then it's gonna make the bobble too small. And the other thing you want to look for is just getting the hook kind of caught and separating the yarn, like going through like that, where you're separating the yarn. And it just happens, so it's not a big deal, but you want to try to go back and fix that when it does happen. So we'll just do a chain 1 again. The other thing is, the tendency is to get a little tighter, and then these loops start getting smaller the more you do. So again, just you want to try to work relaxed and loose. What I find too is this chain hole ends up getting bigger as I go, and that's okay. It kind of like, it settles back down. You can sort of puff out these stitches. So there's a few that are close together, and here are a couple that are further apart. This one I did with 3 chains between each bobble, and I think I did between about 9 and 11 loops on each one. So that is the smaller one. Now for this chunky garland. This is a size 6.5 millimeter. Number K, it says. And this is the Woolies Thick and Quick yarn. And same thing, we're gonna make a slip knot at the end, leaving enough to make a little loop. And put it on the hook. And this one we're gonna do, let's see, get it going here. We'll do 3 chains, and then make our first bobble. Oops. Getting a little hung up here. This is the downside to working with fuzzy yarn, is you can get kind of snagged on it a little bit easier. So we're gonna make our bauble in this loop. And again, we're gonna pull it out about an inch, wrap it, put it in the hole, pull it through, wrap it, pull it in the hole and pull it through. And this time we're gonna do 7 loops. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I found that that's really enough. Again, like if you wanna do more, you can. If you want the baubles to be really puffy, you can do that. That's fine. But there's our first bauble. And then I'm just going to do a chain, another chain, so 2 chains, and then on the third one, I'm gonna start doing the baubles again. I liked these a little bit closer together, whereas the small one, I liked it a little bit further apart. Those who are experienced crocheters, my mechanics are a little bit weird because I learned to crochet when, like right after I had shoulder surgery, so I couldn't really use my right hand. So I did most of the work with my left hand. So if you see that I'm using my left hand a lot to pull stitches over and stuff, that's why, because that's how I learned to crochet when I couldn't move my right hand. But it was good physical therapy for my hand to get the blood flowing and to help with swelling and restore some feeling and all of that. Okay, so there's another 7 and pull it through. And like I said, with these, I just do them like while I'm watching TV and stuff, so I'm not paying a lot of attention. I don't count each one. You just sort of get a feel for how much yarn you have on the hook to make a bauble that's a good size. And that's it. So you don't have to know any typical crochet stitches. The only thing that we use is a slip knot, which most people know anyway, and the chain, which is just pulling the yarn through. Everything else is just wrapping the yarn and pulling loops through. And that's it. So, but this is a good, like if you've ever been interested in learning to crochet, this is a great project to learn just the basics of it and to kind of get used to using a hook, sort of when you have the hook facing up, when you have it facing down, and to get used to working with the yarn, putting it over the hook, all of that stuff. It just kind of gets you used to it. So it's a really good project if you're interested in learning crochet. And I think these look so good on a tree. They look good wrapped in with evergreen garlands. You can obviously do it in different colors. You can use yarns that have sparkle. Like there's a lot of fun that you can have with it. And the great part is they don't have to be perfect. This is a very, very forgiving project that if your tightness changes throughout or whatever, it just doesn't matter. So there you go. There's a couple of options for a simple bauble garland. And you can make these either a specific length, like if you want them to be a traditional garland length of maybe 6, 12, 18 feet, you can do that, or you can just make the whole, the whole skein. And I think I used 2 skeins of yarn on a small tree that was about 6.5 feet, and then 3 skeins on an 8-foot tree. So it doesn't take a lot of yarn to make a lot of garland. So there's a project. It's an easy one to whip out and you still have time before Christmas.